the podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi there. Good afternoon. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Dr. Mike Gustafson and Clint Scott. I'm Aaron Dickens. We're joining you today until 6 o'clock. Would love to hear what you have to say, what's on your mind on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at Double T 97.3.com. All guests appear via the Benchmark hotline. We'll probably spend most of our 3 hours on the release of Brittany Griner. We'll chat with a national security expert from Texas Tech at 3:30 and get their thoughts on this and what it kind of means in the broader scheme of U.S.-Russia relations. Maybe dabble into I'm kidding.
Yeah, working on some intelligence officers. Maybe we can mask their voices and get them to give us some intel. You know, we want to stir it up here.
Make them sound like the teacher on with the Peanuts.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know, clearly Zoom. Yeah, Zoom with the camera off. We want all of your hot political takes, please. Shower us with those.
Hot Political Takes was my high school band name, by the way.
Although I do think that in many ways...
My next fantasy football team name, too.
Spending the next 3 hours kind of, trudging through that stuff might be more fun than watching that basketball game last night.
Woo! Basketball game was good for about the last 5 minutes. Mercy.
That was gross.
Yeah, it was. And when it was over... Me and my baseball friends text. I almost sent this to you, and I go, AD would get this, but I'm going to spare you my baseball humor. That was like, actually Brooks said it to me. That was like beating New Mexico on a Tuesday afternoon, like 9-8, after you score like 4 runs in the bottom of the 8th to get it. So hey, got the win. Everything, we're all good here, right? But you don't feel great about it. It feels a little rough.
It definitely felt rough.
We're
Did we
a
just
couple,
lose internet? That's great.
We're a couple of little positives. I mean, there really were. Washington played his best game. It wasn't all bad. Usually there is a little silver lining on something like that, but it just it's the kind of game that gives you. It's like struggling to beat Houston Baptist a couple years in football.
Sure.
You just kind of go, okay, that doesn't define anything. Maybe we learned something about ourselves, but that's going to be Texas in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, because the problem is
Kansas.
By itself, it's no big deal. If you rebound and go around 500 in Big 12 play, we will quickly forget about this game,
sure.
right? The concern is, and you mentioned the Houston Baptist game or the Central Arkansas game in 2014 or the UTEP game the day before or the week after that. Those, I mean, in retrospect, those were kind of the canary in the coal mine games where you were like, okay, clearly have some issues. I mean, look, 2015, Sam Houston State, the Bearcats put up a ton of yards and points on a Tech football team that wins the game. But again, was a pretty clear sign that, hey, your defense is terrible, right? And so I think if you're a Tech fan and you wake up, this morning thinking about what happened last night, is this kind of a sign of what's to come?
Yeah, and that's it. Really is the concerning part. Is that and so much of it is, and I sometimes I feel like I overreact to those watching somebody else play, watching someone else's scores, and going, "Oh man, they're great. They're unbeatable," and so I confess to that part when I played baseball and we were playing in tournaments, where it'd be like we're sitting in the stands watching your team play. If your team played pretty well, I'm thinking, man, that's going to be tough. Never mind the fact that they might sit in the stands and watch us play and go, oh, we got no shot or whatever. But it was always something that I thought, the older I got, the more I knew I needed to regulate that and not let, oh my gosh, it's the New York Yankees. There you go.
Mount up.
We coming. But, that's not the Golden State Warriors down there. Iowa State's not. But you look around this conference, and everybody's got a signature win. Everybody looks really good. And Iowa State's one that sort of gives me the most pause because that's the team that you go, well, they lost their best player. And they also beat North Carolina, And
although that club is growing.
Yeah, I know.
By the day.
I know. It is a brand. It's like us beating Louisville and Georgetown. But still, I don't think they're maybe as bad as we wanted. And just you can look at this. It feels a little bit like football. But the football thing was more of a pleasant surprise than basketball. The floor to this thing, somebody's going to finish in last. Don't get me wrong. That's just how it works. But there's no 1-15 team or 1-17 team out there.
And I think that kind of illustrates the potential problem that you saw last night. It's not that you missed some free throws, right? Or, turn the ball over. I mean, some of that stuff is correctable, fixable. Some of that stuff is just sport. Sometimes you just have a bad night, individually, collectively. But in a league like the Big 12, especially with a program like Texas Tech, that's not going to just run off the bus and out-talent everybody, because clearly you might have been able to do that in years past, in certain years, against certain Big 12 teams. Not this year, right? That much is painfully clear right now, and it seems unlikely to change between now and March. You need to be locked in, right? You need to be focused. You need to, the effort level needs to be immaculate. The preparation, the focus, the attention to detail, and you didn't really have that against Nicholls, and you wonder if that was taking them for granted, overlooking them, whatever it might be. Maybe it's a sign of immaturity or some kind of combination of all of those factors. But what you practice in practice and what you practice in non-conference translates into conference play. And so if you're not able to kind of get everyone up to a certain level for Nicholls, it's no guarantee that you'll be able to do the same for TCU at 11 a.m. on New Year's Eve, right? Or Iowa State at home on some random Saturday when the students aren't here. I mean, that part is the biggest concern to me, because they'll make shots, right? They'll make free throws. They're not going to miss, 17 free throws or whatever it is again, I would sure think.
Yeah, that's I'm with you, and it's you said it well, that without a premium talent level, the being on point and being ready to go is as important as it is. And I'm also in agreement with what you said. That can be dudes in the locker room. That can be leadership in those guys. Whoever that is, that's got to happen.
More Tech Talk next.
It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey there, it's The Juice on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. Brought to you by our very good friends at Specs Wine, Spirits, and Finer Foods. Your headlines: the Texas Tech men's basketball team defeated Nicholls last night, 78-71. It was not easy to dispatch a team that entered yesterday 3-4. Nicholls was up 35-28 at the half, and they were down by as many as 11 in the second half. Tech didn't get its first lead of the game until 1:51 left to play. A Kevin O'Banner three-pointer gave the Red Raiders a 70-69 advantage. They did win the game. They've now won 26 consecutive home games, and that streak will once again be on the line on Tuesday against Eastern Washington. Texas Tech has sold some tickets. It is sold out of its ticket allotment for the Texas Bowl, which will be played Thursday, December 28th against Ole Miss in Houston. Texas Texas Tech is encouraging fans and students who were unable to purchase tickets through Tech's allotment to purchase them on the secondary market from StubHub. Tech will be the visiting team against the Rebels, and their sideline will be the east sideline. Former Dallas Cowboys coach Jason Garrett and Sacramento State coach Troy Taylor are among the finalists for the Stanford head coaching job, according to ESPN. A decision is expected in the coming days. 56-year-old Garrett was the Cowboys coach from 2010 to 2019. Was 85-67 in the regular season, 2-3 in the playoffs. Was most recently the New York Giants offensive coordinator before he was dismissed during the 2021 season. Taylor, meanwhile, 54 years old, is a graduate from Cal. Has been the head coach at Sacramento State since 2019. Two-time Big Sky Conference Coach of the Year. His team right now is 12-0. This seems like an easy, no-brainer decision, Gus. Why would you pick TV analyst Jason Garrett,
career NFL guy,
over a sitting head coach, college coach in California who's been very, very successful?
Yeah, I'm sure the Ivy League part, and that's there's a lot of flash to Jason Garrett in terms of would look good. There's just there's a lot of eye candy with him.
But it would look good to people like us.
Oh, sure.
Right? 35-plus-year-old NFL fans.
You bet.
That, especially folks in Texas
thanks for lumping me in
are
with the 35-year-olds.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Hyper aware of the Cowboys.
Right.
But if you're a college football prospect,
yeah,
I don't know that Jason Garrett really. I mean, who's choosing Stanford because of Jason Garrett?
Mm-hmm.
That seems like an odd choice. The other guy, Taylor, seems like the much better pick. But what do I know? This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. From Thomas the Train. Bacho can't keep up this pace without missing some time, and that's the big concern. Someone else says this. You were also without one of your best players. Yeah, Jalen Tyson. You didn't have him, but I don't think that's even worth mentioning because, again, you didn't have your first lead of the game against Nicholls State until there was 1:51 left to play. And if Jalen Tyson, and I like Jalen Tyson, and I think he's got a nice future in front of him, but he's not Wilt Chamberlain. If Jalen Tyson is the difference between you having a comfortable win at home in December against a Southland Conference team and being in a dogfight in the second half, then you're in more trouble than I thought.
And if he's the lone piece of missing, boy, if we had Jalen Tyson in the lineup, our perimeter defense wouldn't have broke down so much and allowed 25-plus points in the paint. Like, we were just missing him. That's a bigger issue. A fixable issue, but that's a bigger issue.
This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line from Very Nervous Raider. Why is it that no one will publicly admit that this Tech basketball team is in danger of imploding from within? It is out there among numerous sources that our coach has either lost this team or is about to do so. I've seen that on message boards. I've seen that on social media. I've not seen that actually reported by anyone that I would call a reputable source. I think that, to be clear, I'm not throwing cold water on that. I have no idea. Just in general, I feel like whenever you are winning as a team, people assume that everything is great internally. The culture is awesome. It's Parisian. It's amazing. And then when you're losing, it's a dumpster fire. Everyone is at each other's throats. The coach has lost the team, etc. And Gus, you've been a part of way more teams than I have. Can you speak to the fact that, hey, these are people involved, and sometimes when the results are great, that doesn't mean everything is just super harmonious behind the scenes, and the opposite is true as well.
Oh, sure. And I played on a team that was terrible. Coach A's first year, we were next to last in the conference, and I look back on it and go, man, I wouldn't trade. Yeah, I would trade anything to go back and play one day as a 20-year-old again on a last place team. You know what I mean? But when you're in that, there was days that it's like, oh man, we got to go to the ballpark. Oh man, we got to get on a bus and go to wherever and get our teeth kicked in. And so I by no means do I think that's what's going on there, but just walking into the locker room, finding out 5 of my teammates had been kicked off the team, that happened. It was on the news that night, this is pre-social media, 1987, and so that stuff gets tough. They're probably. I heard an interview with Ross, the Cubs manager, yesterday. And it was just baseball chatter. It was the car wash. It was you asked me last week what happens at the winter meetings. But Ross was going, I have to keep, because they were asking, obviously a player for the Cubs, now a manager. And they said, what's the difference? And he goes through a bunch of things, and he goes, I go to bed every night knowing that there's probably 10, 15 guys on my team that aren't having a good week, not playing as much as they want, or playing not as well, especially in a sport like baseball with the ups and downs. But that's, and so he's not even addressing we're winning or losing. He's just saying those guys. And so that's something that has to be managed all the time. I mean, this team was pretty darn good when Namari Burnett left a couple years ago. He was a 5-star, and they were in the wake of a finishing second in the country, and he was gone about this time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, around
and
January.
And so these things happen. It doesn't always happen when a team's bad. Doesn't always happen when a team's good. But I'm not ready to. I had some friends texting me, and oh man, this isn't going. That kind of just moaning and groaning in a group text kind of stuff. And so I was like, there goes the winning streak, and I was like, hey, no, wait a minute, can we let this game finish? It was a 7-point game, so let's let the game finish, and then we're happy. I'd be happy to chat about this, but I don't need to crystal. I'm not getting up and leaving because you think we're beat. And so, it got silly from there. But I just that's you're 100% right. It's very well said, and don't underestimate your understanding of the team dynamic. But that, things can feel worse at times than they really are. Things can feel perhaps better than they really are when you're winning.
More tech talk next.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey there, it's Tech Talk. Happy Thursday. With Gus and Clint, I'm Aaron. We'd love for you to be part of the conversation. Hit us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at doublet973.com and let us know what you think. This person says in the chat line from Thomas the Train, Fisher seems likely to leave. He came to play and isn't. If it's his defense, I'd gladly give up a little on D to get scoring after what I saw last night. This on the, I mean, that's the ultimately the transfer portal is show and tell, right? Because listen, you're not, if there are any kind of behind the scenes problems or conflicts or whatever internally, Mark Adams is not going to get up on the podium and go, yeah, actually, no, I don't get along with this guy, or these two players don't like each other, or what, like that's not,
we missed on that guy.
That's not ever going to happen.
Nope.
But the portal will tell us, right? I mean, if there is some kind of conflict, some sort of issue, controversy, dissent, whatever, discontent, yeah, we'll find out when a bunch of players enter the portal, if that happens. This in the Yates Flooring Center chat line from Chris. Remember when everyone was flipping out in 2019 after Tech dropped to Kansas State 45-58, and then they went to the national championship game? Yeah, I mean, it's like we said at the beginning, Gus. I mean, if you go on and win a bunch of games, this is a blip. This is hardly remembered, right? But if this is the canary in the coal mine, then we'll kind of remember this game kind of like we do the narrow wins over Houston Baptist or the narrow win over Central Arkansas in football.
I think the and let's see, I have it written right here on Monday. On Monday, the hoops net ranking came out, those ratings came out, and of course that's kind of it's a fancier version of RPI, and it's definitely a key metric in the room. It's
super important.
Yeah, it's not the Ken Palm deal that's really interesting, but not really what they're looking with. It's the number, and we were at 62nd in the country, 8th, which was 8th in the Big 12, and so. And even said that whoever posted that said it's way too early because you just don't have a body of work yet. But I think it's indicative of what we talked about, that we've talked about over different points in time, that their best opportunity for signature wins came in Maui, and they didn't really get them. Either of the two. Well, I don't say Creighton or Ohio State, but Creighton, and then whatever else was going to result from that, because it was a bracket. Unfortunately, the Louisville win. Louisville's near the bottom
of anything for you.
Yeah, and they were near the bottom of that net ring, like 300 and something. As you said, fourth quartile. I think was isn't that the verbiage that ends up being a key part of it?
Yeah. A quad.
There you go. Quad. Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
And so. Georgetown's not going to help as much. And there may be another win or two in here. Nicholls may go on and be pretty good in the Southland. They were picked to be second, but it's just not the kind of thing that's going to add heft to that, to the signature wins. And now, plenty of opportunities for signature wins in the conference, but that 62nd ranking and being 8th in the Big 12 in net ranking isn't going to change until you get into conference and start winning games. Eastern Washington's just not going to help.
This in the chat line from Dylan. Williams seems like the issue, not Fisher. He seemed lethargic with the ball and just a play behind almost.
Well, he had a good game against Georgetown, though. That's the problem. Is it's not just like a one-off, but you've seen him in bulk minutes like 3 games, including last night, and he didn't have a good game last night. But
that's the frustrating part is. Guys, not building on something like that. All right, he took a step forward against Georgetown, got some good minutes, started the game last night, and took a step back and looked a step slow. I don't want to say a step slow, but like the pace and the frenzy that Nicholls was bringing looked like it was too much for him at times. Like, man, that's not a freshman. That's a transfer guy. That's a portal guy. He was one of the dudes that came in as part of a solution. And so, like I said, Washington played his best game and scored double digits and advanced his name a little bit. But does he sustain that? Does he build on that? There was obviously minutes to be had last night, and a couple guys stepped forward, a couple guys didn't. So it's just the 2 steps forward, 1 step back thing.
This on the chat line, somebody says Walton contributes nothing.
Yeah.
So far, yeah, there's no doubt. He has been a significant disappointment, I would say, so far. This in the chat line, can everyone just take a deep breath and at least wait until we get AMAC back? Tyson was out last night as well.
Yep. No argument there. And that's the Fardaws deal is the tough part about that is what we've talked about, and this isn't going to change for a while, but that cast comes out. I think Coach Adams said in pregame in the next week to 10 days, and then the preparation begins, and then the build up. Then that was it. The cast comes off, and then they take X-rays, and then they go, okay, that's good. And now the preparation begins. Now you run up and down the court a few times and see how it feels. Now you take some cuts and do the equivalent of a 7-on-7 drill.
Process.
Oh no! And then just him getting right, and unfortunately, if he gets 1 game in before Big 12 play, that's going to be a blessing. And there's a pretty good chance that his first game, he walks out there and it's Kansas or somebody staring him in the face.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
It doesn't help either that, and I don't know how much. Ultimately, Mark Adams is responsible, right? He's the head coach.
Sure.
He is the owner of a brand new contract. He's getting paid a lot of money to win a bunch of games. They did that last year. But ultimately, I think it's fair to kind of assess this roster, albeit while acknowledging that it's not a full complement because you don't have Fardaws, AMAC available. and kind of wonder, like, how good can this team really be given its youth, given its depth limitations, because you're not really getting much from your bench, it seems. And you don't have Terrence Shannon, you don't have Kevin McCullough, and I'm sure that when you're kind of beginning the process of kind of mapping out your recruiting plan and your roster plan for this season, you probably aren't expecting to not have those two guys with you. So it just kind of seems like a big old poop sandwich. More Tech Talk next.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey there, happy Thursday. Thank you for spending part of your afternoon with us, with Gus and Clint. I'm Aaron. We'd love to hear what you have to say on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at doublet973.com.
One birthday.
All right.
Texas Tech birthday. Joel Fulani.
How about that?
39 years old.
The baby moose.
Is that right?
That's what Leach nicknamed him as a kid. Or not a kid, geez.
Young.
As a young player.
Okay.
Because he was, very big, but maybe a little bit
lanky.
Hadn't
and
kind of put it all together yet. But
then he
had
did.
a coming out party against Cal in the Holiday Bowl in 2004. Had a great season in 2015, all Big 12.
05.
I'm sorry, yeah. Duh, geez. I'm old.
12
05.
years of eligibility.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah. COVID.
He was a Playboy All-American. How about that in 05?
Caught the pass at Nebraska, among others, as you said. But yeah, really good year. And now coaching with coaching at Wazoo, right?
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Mr. Morris. Yeah.
This
So,
in the Yates Flooring
39 years old.
Center chat line. Adam says, "Be patient. Code for next year." I mean, I'm not. I don't want to parse anybody's words. I feel like you can't really do that now, though.
Mm-mm.
Like you can't really. Whether you're a coach, whether you're a media type trying to put like a glass half full spin on the situation. I mean, they're if this was 10 years ago, right, and you had freshman Pop Isaacs and Elijah Fisher and Daniel Bacho, who's still a young player, all this stuff, you could go, okay, guys, hey, you're going to take your lumps right now, but look out next year, look out, 2 years from now. But hell, there's no guarantee that you'll have these players next year, right? And so I don't know that you can ever really preach patience because there's no guarantee that there will ever be any payoff. And that's why I really kind of question this roster construction because, and maybe it would have looked differently, and it would have, if you had been able to keep McCullough and TJ Shannon. But I don't like being this young, and I think if you're a Texas Tech or any other Big 12 program, you don't have to be this young, right? That was a choice. We're seeing kind of the pain points now. Hopefully, there's a payoff, but and especially, and I don't go to practice. I'm not inside the program, and I really have nothing to compare this to. This is based only on my kind of perception and what I assume about Mark Adams and his coaching style. He does not strike me as a coach who is going to go easy on you, right? Where he's going to just like kind of let you go through the motions, right? Or slack off or kind of, learn at your own pace. I mean, he's not Bob Knight, right? But you can probably see Bob Knight from where he's standing, if that makes sense. And I don't think that works as well with true freshmen, right? I think that when you bring in mid-major types, I think that they probably appreciate that, or at least they know to expect that. They know where that kind of approach is coming from. But I don't, if you're a blue chip kind of prospect and you've been told how awesome you are your whole life and your ass has been kissed every day by hangers on and social media and handlers, etc., and suddenly, this 60-something-year-old coach is saying, hey, hustle up. What are you doing? Like, run.
get to work on defense. Yeah.
Like guard.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how many freshmen really can appreciate and embrace that method of coaching, that style, in this age, in the NIL age, in the transfer portal age, when there is an easy out that's just there. All you've got to do is sign some papers and you're done.
And I think the magic of the positive, well, the magic of the coaching situation that works is the coach that's able to coach hard but still have, the kids are buying in. He chewed my butt today, but he's still my guy. I'm still his guy. Versus that fine line that the player slips away.
And to be clear, I am pro coaching hard. I am not advocating for some kind of like soft touch here. I'm not saying that Adams should change who he is. I just don't know if this roster as constructed is the best fit for that style. I feel like that lends itself more to older teams, much like you had last year.
Yeah, I wrote a book about a guy who coached me hard, so I'm the wrong guy to ask, right?
Yeah.
I got 180 pages about that. In fact, I'll say this. After having played for Coach Mago, who coached us so hard in every minute of every day, Coach Hayes was really, he didn't jump on you. I mean, you knew who was in charge, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't going to bark at you or whatever. You just found yourself not playing or not in the lineup or whatever. There was never, a much softer touch there. Tons of success for both of them, too. Not me, but I'm saying both of them had their success, both in respective halls of fame and all that kind of stuff. But, there were times early in my time playing for Coach Hayes, I was like, man, when what I probably needed was a kick in the butt. Probably wouldn't admit it at the time. No, I got this. But when the reality
I've got it all figured out.
The shock of, Coach Mago barking at us like he did or barking at me like he would was the eye. It was like the ammonia thing that we used to talk about, like, whew. Yeah, is that kind of thing and so that was a different thing. And so I'm sure it would be equally as jarring the other direction to have had, like what you said, hangers on, everything go, hey, you're great. And then, who's this guy telling me to dive on that ball and play defense or whatever? And there better be
Doesn't he know him the next Michael Jordan?
Exactly. Yeah. And there better be a lot of success around it, like the winning and all the feel-good vibes in a way. But even then, like I said, in Amari Burnett a couple of years ago, there was a lot of good vibes around this program at that point when he checked out.
This and the Yates Flooring Center chat line. On the bright side, at least the basketball team's troubles are nothing compared to what's going on at New Mexico State.
Oof.
This on the chat line. That's the question. Why did the staff choose to go this young? Yeah, maybe that was the plan when they expected Shannon or McCullough back. Maybe if they could do it over again, they wouldn't. I don't know.
Because those decisions were probably made long before those two guys ever left. And
more Tech Talk next.
Deal.
It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi there, it's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Gus and Clint. I'm Aaron. We're with you until 6 o'clock. We'll have Thursday Night Football for you tonight, beginning at 6:30 on 100.7 The Score. Would love to get what you have to think on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at Double T 97.3.com. This person says, I am perfectly content with our youth. Okay, yeah, let's revisit that in February. Tracy in Dallas, hey boys, any news, negative or positive, coming out of the Tech football transfer portal today? There actually was an announcement. I don't know if he is officially in it or not yet, but Amari Jones, who has been on campus now for, I think this is his second year, has announced that he will be entering the portal. Did not play as a true freshman. I don't know how much he played, this year as a freshman, but he is leaving. He's a scholarship player. He gives you now another spot to fill. I think this is kind of one of those probably best for both party deals.
Yeah. That's wasn't a depth chart guy or whatever coming out of camp, and so but the key thing there is what you said: scholarship locker uniform.
We get this in the Yates Flooring Center chat line from Jace. Relax, down 2 starters. Played 2 tournament teams very well in Maui. Different bounds here or there. One of those games is different. Conference is the true litmus test.
Yep.
We lose 3 or 4 straight, then panic. I mean, I don't know how I feel about those texts because your last 2 times playing basketball, you give up a monster run to Georgetown and let them back into the game, right? And that game was very much in the balance late in the second half. And then you've got to fight and claw to beat Nicholls last night, which is, they're 3-4. They're a Southland team. I don't care if you're down 2 starters. That shouldn't matter. We dunked on TCU a few weeks ago for losing to some who knows team.
Northwestern State.
Yeah. Okay. Northwestern State. Thank you.
And beating Pine Bluff by 1.
And because they were down 2 starters. Because if you're a Big 12 team with second weekend aspirations, shouldn't matter, right? It shouldn't matter. And so I think people are within every right to be kind of looking at those 2 games, even though the outcome was positive. And I would take, 20 more wins just like it if that's what it took.
Oh, yeah.
But scratching their heads going, hey, this probably isn't a good sign. It could be a blip, right? We talked about that at the beginning of the show. Sometimes you just have a bad day. That goes for if you're a basketball player or an accountant or a radio show host. But yeah, I don't know that sitting up here and kind of being the Iraqi information minister is really plays.
Baghdad Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything's fine.
Missed 17 free throws on purpose, guys. It's cool. This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Gus, you got coached hard when it was a different world.
Oh, yeah.
Today is much different. Kids don't accept it like we did in our day. It's unfortunate, but a reality. And, I mean...
There's a McDonald's right there.
I don't know Pop Isaacs personally. I've never been in the same room as him outside of, an arena. So maybe he is of the type that is fine with it, and he's been coached hard his whole life. I don't know. But generally, yeah, it doesn't seem like that's something that this current crop of players really thrives in, at least immediately. Maybe they can get into it and learn and adapt, but right away, bit of a culture shock, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I would think that a guy like Pop, who's played pretty well, right? I mean, 20-something last night, was a key guy last night, was getting offense when there wasn't much else offense going on. And so if you're flourishing, and I can't speak for him specifically.
Are you flourishing, Gus?
If you're flourishing...
That was a bad answer to "Are you flourishing?"
If you're flourishing, exactly. If you're flourishing shortly after getting your butt chewed, then you might be willing to step back and go, you know what? He was right. He got after me back in pick one of the early games. Texas Southern. Who was in Texas Southern? Wasn't that who we played early?
Yeah.
He got after me in that Texas Southern game. And since then, I've played better. My defense has gotten better. He got my attention. And I can't say that, but I do know this. Pop Isaacs has played better. The turnovers are going down. The points are up. Like just a little more under control. Feels like he's making that adjustment. Whereas if you're Elijah Fisher, it seems to be the one everybody's wanting to text about, the minutes aren't there. Where's the misery factor there? And so he chews my butt and I don't get on the floor. Now, the key thing for a guy like Elijah Fisher, Kerwin Walton, and Walton should be old enough to know these guys. And again, I don't know their specific stories, but the solution to their playing time problems is going to come in transferring what is worked on in practice to the across the street to the arena on game day, because Kerwin got out there and it was like 2 minutes and he was dribbling it out. Dude comes up behind him and just picks his pocket. He didn't see the whole court. I mean, it's the kind of thing you'd see over at Evans Middle School or out of and then maybe came down and fouled on the other end, or I don't remember what it was, but he came off the floor and he could see Coach Adams wasn't screaming at him. It was like, you did this, you did that, have a seat, and didn't get back on the floor. And it's like that's a disappointment. And I'm not dragging on the kid. I'm just saying, like, that's the these things are repeating from game to game to game, and you're not adjusting to it.
I think too that we should be past the point of being reluctant to just criticize performance with the players, because unlike 20 years ago when it was just, hey, here's a scholarship, these guys are getting paid money. Like, I mean, they're making more than most folks probably listening to this show right now. So, I think that buys them a lot, including the ability to be scrutinized and criticized. And you haven't gotten squat from Kerwin Walton at all. I'm sure he's nice. Not dogging on him personally, but the production has not been there.
You've been listening to the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3. Check out Double T973.com for more from Lubbock Sports Station.